All right, everyone, and welcome to the weekend edition of the Market Report for Stats Edge Trading with myself, Michael Nauss, Chartered Market Technician. So, if you're new here, welcome. At the end of the week, we zoom out, we take a look at all the charts. I got some great ones for you. I got some good trading ideas coming into next week. We go a little slower than in most videos, so grab your coffee, hang out. Go to statsedgetrading.com, sign up for the email list there, make sure you don't miss anything. And without further ado, let's just pop into it here. We're going to get started, as always, with Bitcoin and nothing this week. So you can check my notes last week, but basically I'm worried about this low right here. We ran up to it. This kind of consolidation is what you want to see if we are going to make it through a major support. That's what markets do. They get to an area, they either pull back from that area or they consolidate around that area and then break through. So a sideways move for a couple weeks is perfectly normal and exactly what we want to see. Now we're going to go to Ether here, and just to show the relative weakness of Ethereum. Right? We saw Bitcoin breaking out, hitting new highs, struggling with a massive area resistance. We haven't even broken out in Ethereum. So again, I like to stick to the strong stuff. I like to short the weak stuff. Ethereum to me is relatively weak. So that and the altcoins, which I kind of bucket in with Ethereum, are pretty much a no-go. I want to be focused on what is strong right now. This is a Bitcoin rally, in my opinion, not a crypto rally. Now, getting into currencies, we had the dollar index just completely falling out of bed. We talked about this last week that I was looking to short on this bounce because we had this bit of a breakdown out of this base. We had this little inside bar retesting, so I was looking on shorter time frames to short. I got some good shorts, turned into a great week trading Forex. Simply because, if I was short anything against the dollar or long anything to note it in the dollar, it turned out to be just a great trade. Most of this happened during the CPI print, which we'll go over when we go into the equity market. But CPI came in, I don't know, flat or something. Again, I don't even study the numbers, but the reaction of the market is what I care about. Stocks rallied, dollar collapsed, closed right at its lows. I wouldn't be shocked to see another jump or an inside week or something like that next week, just because this was a pretty dramatic move and we are a little bit oversold here. Now, looking at some of the yen pairs, we had a pretty interesting theme here on a lot of these yen pairs. We had a pop over this resistance and then a sell back down. We had that on Aussie yen. We also had that on CAD yen, right, where we had another breakthrough this clear resistance area and a failure there. Could be time for an oversold bounce in the yen. If we look at dollar yen, same kind of thing. We came right back to this prior high and then we failed at it and we sold off. So I wouldn't be shocked to see some yen strength, which would mean this chart goes lower in the coming weeks. Now we've got some Euro seems to be the strongest here with a pretty sizable breakout here this week of this anchored VWAP pinch that I was talking about. Talked about this last week right in this area, that it came all the way up to this anchored VWAP right here and had a little pause week. Again, with CPI, as soon as we broke that high, we just rocketed, again, making for a really great trending week. Now, one thing that shocked me is the pound weakness. You see that massive move that we had in the euro. We did not get that move in the pound, showing some relative weakness to the pound, still struggling with this anchored VWAP from the highs. So it wouldn't shock me if we start to see some more problems with this. So you could take a look at euro pound. Right? You can trade these cross pairs as well. If you notice that one is quite stronger than the other, you can see euro pound is moving higher because euro is breaking out so much and pound isn't. So I always like to look at these cross pairs just in case I want to take a trade in them. Speaking of relatively weak, New Zealand dollar. So Kiwi dollar couldn't even get off the mat. Nothing happened here. Didn't even close above yesterday's high. And then if we look at Aussie dollar, same kind of thing, right? Relative weakness in these other currencies. We're actually struggling with Aussie dollar against this zone right here. So if we are going to get a bit of a pause or a pull down in the dollar, the dollar is going to bounce, sorry, then I'm going to take a look at Aussie dollar, I'm going to take a look at Kiwi dollar or pound dollar, and those are the things I'm going to short because of how relatively weak they were during this pop. Last but not least, gold is very interesting. Pulled back, held right into, I should move this just to kind of show what I'm looking at here, but came right back down into this prior resistance, broke that, came down, tested exactly, rallied off. So a great move in gold, but still didn't break out the last week's high. So we've got some leaders in the euro and we've got some laggards in the rest of them. So now let's get into the equity markets here, trade ideas. And again, check out trade ideas going to statsedtrading.com. You can save yourself some money there. Buying it there helps support the channel. And this is what I use for all of my trading and scanning and everything when it comes to equities. Now, the SPY just continues to be a rocket ship, right? We're just continuing to get this move in the SPY. And I really don't know what to say other than we're overextended. We've got some of this resistance point overhead. I'm not going to just short strong names. I may look to short some weak names. I still want to be participating in the long side because that's obviously what the trend is doing. However, we're overdone and we're overdone into resistance. I personally will not be FOMOing into this level. I'm just not going to do it. So I need to be a little more tactical. Again, I already have a long portfolio. I'm looking for individual more long trades, but we are overdone. Now, there are two ways that you can resolve an overbought or an oversold condition. A lot of people forget this. One is you can resolve it via price, and then the other one, you can resolve it via time. So it doesn't mean when I'm saying it's oversold, it doesn't mean I think that this is going to crash back down. It could just consolidate sideways for a number of days, a number of weeks. We are actually seeing that if we zoom in here to the intraday chart, you can see, or the daily chart, you can see we have some consolidation. We have 3 days now of consolidation. So I'm just looking for a little bit more to kind of go on here sideways before we get that next leg that I have to bet is higher because it's such a strong stock. We even have catch up in these other indices. We have catch up in MDY. MDY is our mid cap. It's 2 to 10 billion. It's catching up as well. This has been relatively weak, and even the little guys, the IWM, have just been sucking recently. Participated in that move when it came to looking at that CPI print. So some good move there in a lot of these names. So this is not just a big stocks rallying. This is all stocks rallying. Big stocks leading, I would say. Some of the other sectors I'm watching, we have uranium here. Been talking about uranium, it feels like, for a long time. Since this breakout right here. I got involved in that breakout. That was fantastic. Still love uranium stocks. Still own a bunch of uranium stocks. This kind of base that was happening, I talked about this in the last weekend report. We broke that this week. I got involved in some more uranium stocks. So now we got to say, okay, well, what's going to happen at this prior high that we closed right at? And then maybe what's going to happen through there as well. So I'm in profit taking mode. I don't want to get completely flat just because of the major trend, but I'm not going to look the gift horse in the mouth that I'm seeing when it comes to how strong uranium has been. So XLC here, communications broke out as well. So we're seeing some relative strength in this communications. We have the SPY, closer to its all-time high, but further away from its summer high. We had a breakthrough of that summer high in communications. It's a very interesting name. I'd be remiss without talking about XLK, which is our technology sector, making another weekly closing highs. So I kind of said this on Twitter yesterday, that a weekly closing high is not bearish. Weekly all-time closing high, another weekly all-time closing high, is certainly not bearish. Speaking of what's bearish, UNG, right? This is why you buy the winners. I've had people the entire time saying, when do I buy the dip in UNG? When do I buy the dip in UNG? And I kept, years now. And I kept saying, don't. Just wait until it starts to be in an uptrend again. Unless we break out and hold significantly above this base in UNG, I'm not interested. It's breaking down when the rest of the market isn't. So I would not be getting involved in this name at all. But speaking of names that I would like to get involved in, we have a few here. We have Duolingo. So these are names that are on the watch list. And again, you can sign up to get DUOL. There we go. Took a couple tries. You can sign up if you go to statsedtraining.com, put in your email address there. When I send you the email, at the very bottom, it has access to my watch list, so you can always grab that there once a week at least when I update the watch list. Again, completely for free, so make sure you're signing up to the email list wherever you're watching this. So nice push up. This is one of my favorite plays out there on stocks. You have this massive gap due to some sort of positive news. In this case, it was earnings. Pulled back, hit that anchored VWAP, traded below it, and then rallied above. So if this can get going next week, I like the look of Duolingo. MNST, Monster Energy, exact same play right here. If you take a look at this anchored VWAP from right before this gap, closed under it, but I'm still just watching this 55 area. If it can retrace and get through that 55 area, that's what I'm looking for on Monster. We have AFL. AFL, this is going to be a slower one. I talked about this on Trader TV recently, but nice base up here in insurance. Doing the same thing if you draw an anchored VWAP from right before earnings or on this massive volume day right here, you can see that we're having that as support. Breakthrough here is a pretty substantial break. We have Blink charging. This is a little bit more of a speculative play, so be careful with this one. This is a kind of more of a junky company, but has a 27% short float on Blink. Massive push up, pull back to hit that anchored VWAP. I'm looking for this to pull higher and break that $4 area. We also have Woof, which is a health company. Nice looking rounded bottom here, but it is hugging this anchored VWAP from the lows. I don't like to pick bottoms, but how I do pick bottoms when I see an opportunity like this with a nice long base it's going to break out of is I look for support from that anchored VWAP from that bottom. Now we have Beyond Meat. Stuff's gross, but has a 40% short float here and had some positive action off of this low. You draw an anchored VWAP from that low. It's holding that perfectly. So if Beyond Meat, forgot to set my price alert, do that here. If Beyond Meat breaks up through here, call it like $6.50 or $7, I'm interested in that name. Last but not least, AI. I was talking to some other guys at Trade Ideas, and you'll see this one soon, but very interesting look here in AI, holding the anchored VWAP, holding the gap with a 36% short float on this name in this hot space. Got, pulled back from 50 down to 30. If it holds and breaks through this 30, that is what I'm interested in AI. So, all right, guys, I appreciate that. I appreciate everyone for coming by, hanging out. I appreciate the likes, the comments, the subscribes, the shares, all that stuff. The algorithm likes it too, so please do that. Sign up for the email list over at statsedtrading.com. Thank you guys very much. Get away from the screens.